right. Today is going to be an awesome call because if you implement what we talk about today, I will say is going to significantly increase your ability to find a great coach versus getting a mediocre coach or getting one that totally sucks. So today, what we're going through is what I found in working with coaches. Some coaches might have disagreements with me, but I think there's some foundational pieces that we're going to cover today that will, again, really help you find the right coach for you. So first thing I will say is when you interview a coach, I would not share a lot of information about yourself or share information about what you want to work on. In this beginning phase, I would keep that close to the vest because you don't want that information to bias the coach's responses to you, or they try to tailor their responses to you based on what they know about you. I don't want them to know a lot. So I get the raw truth. Okay, so first question I want to know is that coach committed to delivering results? Now, every coach says they are, but we all know the truth. Many of them got other things in their life that are taking their attention away from your coaching, and a lot of them are just doing it as a job or as a paycheck. So the question that I have that I would ask them, as I would say, and through this example as I go through today, I'm going to give the hypothetical example of we're interviewing John as a prospective coach, and I'm going to say, hey, John, if you have a client who is totally committed on their outcome and you've verified that they are totally in, but they're not getting results with you, how do you handle that? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut up and listen to the response. So some of the things I might be listening for, this doesn't include everything, but this will give you some clues. Are they saying things like, well, if that happens, that's totally unacceptable. And what I'll do is I'll go back and review my notes with calls that I had with that client to see either is there something that I've missed, or by going back and reviewing things, it crystallized some new thought to me that I could help that client perform at a high level, get the result. Or they might say, I spend time, if I'm not getting a result, it bugs me, and I'll spend time in the morning and I'll have like a think time session where I'll start asking questions to try to come up with new answers that I haven't come up with before, something new and different that I haven't thought about. Or they might say, hey, I have a mentor that I go to. When I get stuck, I like to then sort of lay it out to my mentor about what's going on, what we're working on, what the challenges I see, and get feedback. Or then the next best case scenario would be, or I have a group of coaches that I could go through and get their feedback, get other insights. But again, I'm listening for how driven and committed are they to get results, because what you want to avoid is being in a coaching situation where you're not getting results, where you are committed, and the coach is just doing the same protocol, call after call after call. You're burning time with no progress. So that's first. Second, and this is a pet peeve of mine, because so many coaches, claim they're coaches, but my question is, what training have they had? So I'm going to address today sort of two areas that I love is, let's say they say they're a mindset expert, and I've been to trainings where coaches said they're mindset experts, and I've interviewed coaches that say they're mindset experts. And to be frank, I'm usually underwhelmed about what their training is and what their abilities are. So if it's a mindset expert, what I'm listening for is something like, When I trained in this, I trained with a lot of brilliant people, Tony Robbins being one. But then I trained with a guy that Tony's worked directly with, a guy named Steve Linder. And what's impressive about him is Tony Robbins, when he has projects that he needs someone that is a specialist in neurostrategies, Steve is his go-to person. That's impressive to me. And then I've done training with him, and it blows me away the depth of his knowledge and wisdom. And because of that, he gets a lot of referrals to high-end clients, whether it's celebrities or athletes, pro athletes or whatever. And even more important is I have witnessed and seen him work with people that were not getting results, that had worked with a lot of other people. They were difficult cases, and I see him getting result after result after result. That's impressive to me, versus where I've seen other clients or coaches, they read some material about mindset and they can they can have all the verbiage about mindset, but they can't deliver. So training to me is key. The same as also I work as a business coach, and same thing. You want to know, okay, what training have they had? And you can assess for yourself, but typically I'm looking for, again, like for me, is I trained with Tony in his program in Business Mastery, where he's interviewed some of the world's best, very knowledgeable, and also a guy named Keith Cunningham that has raised over $3 billion for startup companies. And he's built many companies successfully himself. That guy knows some things, and he's been brilliant. He's been sort of a leader in how I approach businesses, my thinking about that. So again, that training, and what you want to be concerned about is there's a lot of coaches out there that have ICF training, which is the International Coaching Federation, that they license companies to train coaches in their ICF protocol. And I'm not bashing them. That's a foundational piece, maybe. I just spilled my water. But anyway, that's like the base of what you would expect. But if you want a coach that really is going to deliver at a higher level, that additional expert training is so key. The next area that I would say is, what top 2 needs does that coach favor? Now, that's a longer term subject area, and I'm going to make it sort of brief to give you sort of the key things that you might consider when you're interviewing a coach. And I would say, in my experience working with a lot of people, what you're listening for is you want to avoid a coach whose top 2 needs are significance and certainty. Or the other coach would be if their top need is certainty, and it could be another need as well, like growth or love and connection or whatever. Still, I do not want to work with that coach as well. And so let's start with how you determine, what the top needs are of the person you're interviewing. And so I'm going to ask that coach is, hey, can you tell me a little bit about you and why you believe you're a great coach? And then I shut up and I listen. Well, as they talk about it, are they talking all about themselves? Well, I graduated top of my class in school and college. I was top in my coaching class. That, whatever. They ramble on and on about how great they are when they're talking about themselves. Now, there's an element of that you want, but are they included in that conversation? That what makes them a great coach is they've learned how to listen in depth with the client that they're working with to really understand what's going on with that client. Because as a coach, I know that is such a key element. I'm listening for that because it makes all the difference in the world. Another element I'm listening for is like, well, I've learned how not to judge my client, because what you find is having that ability allows that client to feel safe and the conversations are more honest. And honesty is so key in coaching and building that respect and trust between the two. So I'm listening for those types of things. As I mentioned, the other area that I'm listening for is, are they certainty driven? And the reason that I make that statement, what I find, especially working with clients, if they're certainty driven, that's okay if you're hiring someone to be your accountant. If you're hiring someone as your coach to come up with innovative solutions, to see things you didn't see, typically certainty driven is only going to be operating in the box they've been trained in, and they won't be able to do things differently. And so those are the two that I'm listening for. The other part is I'm listening for what their values are. And a sort of a sneaky way to get it and get an honest answer is I would ask, hey, John, can you tell me sort of what, growing up, who are your mentors and what about them inspired you? Well, that gives you a great insight based on their answers, what they value. And so they might say, person X, and they really valued family and they valued their community and whatever. That gives you a clue. Or they might take someone else and it's Elon Musk, and because they value success, and or they value technology. So it gives you a clue. And you might even ask them, out of their two parents, who do they aspire to be more like, and what about that did they value? So it's a sneaky way to get a value system to see if it fits in alignment with your value system, so you have a better fit. The other area that when prospective clients are interviewing me, it's the most common thing I get is the accountability. Do you hold people accountable? And I do believe that accountability is an important element of coaching. What I will say, though, it's not, a lot of people see it as the primary piece, and I just see it's one part. And so on the accountability, again, if you ask, you're interviewing someone, what do you hold your clients accountable? Of course, they're going to say yes. So what I prefer to do is ask them a question. I would say, let's say, hey, John, can I just do a quick role play with you? Are you open for that? And he'll say yes. And say, let's say you give me an assignment. And I've told you that right now my revenue is dropping in my company, that our lead flow is drying up, and you give me an assignment to spend 2 hours on my marketing each morning. And I agree to that. And I agree to do that to our next call. So I come into the next call and you ask me and you say, hey, did you follow through with your marketing? I said, you know what? I meant to do it, but my CPA came to me and he's preparing our company taxes, and he asked for all these different documents that I had to compile and put together, and completely wiped out my time, and I didn't have any time for marketing. And then I would ask, how would you hold me accountable? And see what they do. And, are they sort of like, well, hey, I understand. They're really nice. I understand that you had that problem. Blah, blah, will you commit to do it next time? Or what? How do they handle it? What I'm listening for is them to come back and say, look, it's unacceptable. You are not going to turn your company around by putting this off. It's got to be a number one priority. And so I'm listening for what's the leverage they're going to put on me. And there's different ways to get leverage. Are they going to say, well, look, if you don't do it next call, then you commit to write $1,000 check to your least favorite political candidate or whatever it is. But I'm listening for how they handle that piece. Or do they just sort of like give you a slap on the wrist and move on and go, we'll get it next time? Again, a lot of coaches struggle with this because they don't like being uncomfortable. They want to be your friend. You want a coach that cares enough about you to get you to your truth, to get you to take action. Okay, My last two. The other question that I'm going to ask, and this is again where it's important, where at the beginning I said you don't want to tell them a lot about yourself and what you're looking to do, is I'm asking this question now. I'm asking them, well, what are you really good at as a coach? And and so they might say, different things like I'm very driven or I'm decisive or whatever. Is what I would ask though is to drill in and get them to be more specific when they give you those terms. So you say you're very driven. What do you mean by that? How are you driven? I want to know a little bit more than just the blanket answer. So I feel good that they are that. The last part is then I also asking, well, what are you not good at or not interested in doing as a coach? And oftentimes they give you answers like, well, what I'm not good at is I work too hard. I work too hard, or that I don't know, they give you some cookie cutter answer that in reality is a strength. So they're not really telling you what they're not good at. And so if they give me a cookie cutter answer that's a more of a positive answer, I'm going to say, hey, that sounds more like a strength to me. Come on, what are you not good at or not interested in doing? I'm gonna stay with that to get them to tell me, because the truth is every coach is going to have something they're not good at or they don't have any interest in working in. And and so I want to know, and I know, like for me, like what I don't like doing is I don't like working just as an accountability coach. It drives me freaking nuts. I want to be challenged and have a client do something they've never done before than just getting to implement on action. It's a part of the coaching, but if that was the only part of the coaching, I have no interest in doing that. So anyway, those are some keys that if you implement and follow, I say you're going to have a much better chance of getting some coach that is really great. The only challenge is it might require you to interview more coaches because there's so few good coaches out there, in my in my belief. Anyway, have a great day, and I hope this has been useful to you.